It ain't the left side or the right side, then it must be the FinSide. It ain't the left side.
Thank you, Solo D. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide here with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and on Spotify. And check out our merch store on thefinside.threadless.com. We are here breaking down the final Miami Dolphins draft pick, 234th overall, running back Myles Gaskin out of Washington. It's really an unknown to a lot of people that are looking at the NFL draft. Paul and I really just skimmed over him throughout the pre-draft process because, again, there were so many running backs. But in college football, this was a player to watch. I mean, not only was he one of the best running backs in college football, he was one of the best running backs of all time, yardage-wise in college football. He was 13th in all time in rushing yards coming out of the University of Washington, 5,323 yards in 4 years. And he was only one of two running backs in NFL history, or college football history, to have over 1,200 yards rushing in 4 straight seasons. The other one was Heisman Trophy winner in 1999, Ron Dane. So, Paul, obviously he falls down to the 7th round because he's limited in a lot of areas, but certainly was not limited in production at Washington.
No, he wasn't. I mean, you take those numbers you just threw out there, and the kid averaged just over 1,330 yards a season. He never had less than 11 touchdowns. He averaged 15 touchdowns a year in college. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I believe over the last 3 years, he had 59 receptions, which is not bad at all coming out of that backfield spot. I saw a guy that makes some really beautiful jump cuts. He showed great patience when he ran with the ball. There were a lot of times where he ran over people. There were a lot of times where he jumped around them. And if you can do both things, it makes you a lot more explosive. And once he got through the defense, you'd see a guy that would pull away. If you go back to the Penn State game, the quarterback basically ran out and he took a wildcat snap and just roasted Penn State's defense, which had a lot of players that we talked about throughout this pre-draft process. So, I mean, it's just once he finds that crease, he is gone. And he's got great vision to get himself there.
Yeah, lots of production. He's more of a one-speed kind of guy, but that one speed is pretty good. And he's 5'9", 205 pounds. He ran a 4.56, plays faster than that. One thing that surprised a lot of people is he had 24 bench press reps, which was one of the best at his position there. So somebody who has vision and can just plain produce. Whether he'll be able to do that at the NFL level remains to be seen. But he does appear to be in the driver's seat for the Dolphins' third running back spot behind Kenyon Drake and Kalen Ballage. There are only 4 running backs in the roster. The 4th one is Kenneth Farrow, who was with the Los Angeles Chargers a couple of years ago and played in the AAF this past year. So that should be the competition right there as of right now for that third running back spot. Paul, do you think Gaskin ends up winning that third running back job?
I do. And one thing that I'll be intrigued to see is a lot of this stuff that we're talking about here that he did in the production he put up. If you go back and you watch Gaskin's tape, the thing that really made it even more impressive when he put up these numbers, when he threw down some of these video game-like moves and ran over people, was if you watched his offensive line out there, there were a lot of plays where I saw 5 linemen on the field that were just standing there watching the action. I mean, they got that initial pop and then just hung out. So from there, he was doing it all damn near by himself. And that made the production a lot more impressive for me because that line was putrid. If I was watching tape of their linemen for a potential draft class when I'm watching Myles Gaskin's tape, I would immediately just say nope to each and every one of those linemen just because they weren't doing a damn thing on a lot of plays.
Yeah, I mean, the production was certainly there. And, even though, Paul, we talked about a few other running backs that we were hoping to see available at the end of the draft and as undrafted free agents. 2 that stick out are James Williams from Washington State, Devine Ezigbo from Nebraska. They've gone to the Chiefs and the Saints as undrafted free agents. But, they're really a dime a dozen here at the end of the draft. And when I look at Myles Gaskin and the production that he put up and where he was taken, kind of reminds me of the pick of Justin Jackson from Northwestern by the Chargers last year. He's one of the last picks of the draft, but like Gaskin, he was one of the only backs in NFL history. I keep saying NFL history, college football history, to put over 1,000 yards in 4 straight seasons. He was actually 11th all time in college football rushing. Gaskin was 13th. But my point is with Jackson, he got in there behind Melvin Gordon as the backup running back. He had over 200 yards on the year, which is very impressive for one of the last picks of the draft. I see Gaskin being able to kind of get into this rotation and just basically on that vision and that determination and the experience and the fact that he's not worn down here after over 1,100 touches at Washington could make him a really good third back, especially if he has the special teams ability.
Completely. I mean, and he's somebody that I'm going to be very intrigued as the preseason wears on to keep a very close eye on, because I want to see what he's able to do with some blocking in front of him. I know we talked about it in our last segment and a couple of segments before that, where Miami's, one injury away from crying uncle and having to, talk some people out of retirement. But as it stands right now, Miami's starting offensive line, if Prince can live up to half of his possibilities, it'll be interesting to see what Myles Gaskin can do when he doesn't have to do it all himself. And the fact that he's able to lower that shoulder will also add a little bit of competition as well for the guy we just talked about in our last segment, Chandler Cox, because Miami does truly need somebody that can just lower their head and fly through the line for those short yardage situations. Not every time, but with consistency, like we used to see from Lusaka Polite. And he's a guy that can do that, and then if he happens to find a crease while he's doing so, may explode out the other side of the pile and just take it to the house. So a lot of intriguing possibilities with this kid.
Yeah, I think in terms of blocking, the Dolphins are looking, sounds silly, but they're looking kind of elsewhere than offensive line to be able to create those blocks, especially on running plays. I mean, you look at them drafting Chandler Cox in the 7th round. Very few teams draft fullbacks. They also go out and make Dwayne Allen a priority when he hits the free agent market. He's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. So if that offensive line, if they can get a couple of surprises there, then they may be able to spring some of those big runs. Otherwise, offensive line is going to be a very big priority next year as the Dolphins continue to look for their quarterback, unless Josh Rosen is the answer. But we could go down a lot of rabbit holes here. Paul, anything else to add on Myles Gaskin or the running back group?
No, I'm just looking forward to our next segment that we're going to do. Keep an eye out for that. Make sure you like and subscribe so you see that when it comes out, where we're going to basically take an overarching look at the Dolphins draft class as well as take a look at the undrafted free agents. So it's really the next 2 segments. I think there's a lot to look forward to this offseason.
Yeah, and I've never looked forward more to talking about the undrafted free agents. I mean, there are several players there, and I won't get into them, but several players that if they had gone in the 7th round instead of Myles Gaskin or Chandler Cox, we would have been raving about what a great pick that was, considering where they were projected. So that will do it for our breakdown of the Dolphins' final pick of the 2019 NFL Draft, Washington running back Myles Gaskin. Very productive in college. We'll see if he can get that 3rd running back spot this summer with the Dolphins. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and on Spotify. Also, check out our merch store on the FinSide.threadless.com. And if it's not on the right side and not on the left side, it is on the FinSide. Solo D, take us home.
It ain't the left side or the right side, then it must be the FinSide. It ain't the left side or the right side, then it must be the FinSide. Listen, Dolphins fans across the land all tuning in to see what